How's it going, everyone? Roger here, Rant About Tech. If you're new here, welcome. Consider hitting the subscribe button for me, and to the crew, somebody's got to help me get them likes up. So today we're going to talk about a topic that I've been talking about for a long time now, and finally got around to taking the measurements for this thing. We talk about screen whiteness in the e-ink space as in a very arbitrary kind of way. It's not very clear what we mean. The measurements aren't very precise, and they aren't very repeatable, I guess, measurements and very repeatable tactics of us getting the brightness of the screens. And why is that important? Screen brightness in e-ink devices is important because contrast, right? You have a e-ink screen with a very dark background. The black pigment from e-ink doesn't show up well on that. And by the way, if you don't know, e-ink is a technology that uses black pigment capsules, and the display moves those pigment capsules, physically moves those pigment capsules into position to make images on the screen, kind of like an Etch-a-Sketch does. And when you have a very white background, a very bright background, the black pigment in those capsules stand out a lot more, making things easier to see, making things better to look at, and also reducing eye strain, which is one of the benefits of e-ink, right? So contrast is one of those reasons why you want a whiter background. Now, why do I care about the whiter background above and beyond that? Is because it can help influence purchasing decisions, right? If you're someone who says, yeah, I would like a device with the highest contrast between the pigment and the background display, then you might want to know these numbers. Right now, there is no information out there readily available to kind of put this in perspective for people. Not in a standardized way, which is kind of what I wanted to do here. I wanted to get an instrument that was an industry standard instrument, the spectrophotometer, and it's called the DS62, by the way. I made a video talking about this particular device and my whole methodology behind taking these measurements. I'll put that in the description. And also there is a write-up on the website, rantaboutech.com, where you can get a more detailed explanation of the methodology. I'll also link that down in the description. So basically, I use the spectrophotometer to get measurements on the background brightness of the e-ink devices that I have. I have 10. I'm going to put them all up here so you know what devices those are. And we're going to rank those devices by their brightness and their whiteness here today. This is not for the purposes of ranking, just for the purposes of finding out which device has the brightest background and then kind of putting them in their order there. But I guess this could be sort of a ranking, and I probably will title it rankings. That makes sense. It's clickbaity, but yeah, I'm doing it. So what we're going to do to take a look at this information, I'm just going to go to the website here, and we're going to look at how I have it laid out there and just kind of walk through the steps and walk through the graphs and the information, kind of putting it in more context as we go. Let's get started. All right, so now we have the website pulled up with the article as well. We have e-ink screen brightness ranked here, and we also got me listed at the top of all the e-ink devices. Looking pretty pristine. Essentially what the write-up is about is talking about why I wanted to do these tests and how I go about doing them. Again, the methodology is in an article on the website and it's linked in the description below. I'm using this device right here, the DS62 Spectrophotometer, to take all of the readings, and it takes standard readings, just to give you a little bit of background. It takes standard readings on brightness and whiteness. It uses the CIE standard, which is the Consortium for Illumination. Well, an international consortium for illumination, and they set the standards for illumination in the scientific community. I use the same standards they use to take the measurements. I use the same verbiage as they use to take the measurements as far as what it's called there, the nomenclature, if you will. So a lot of all of these, the data, the nomenclature, the way I go about the testing, all is standardized. And anyone with this level of instrument can take these tests and independently verify the information that I'm presenting here today. So that's the beauty of having standardized tests and standardized ways of doing measurements or taking measurements, is that you can do these things definitively and talk about them in a way that is the way the rest of the industry talks about them. first chart we have up here is going to be the CIE whiteness chart versus device. All of these are versus device, right? So I ordered these tests from brightness, from the brightest and the whitest to the lowest. And when I deviate from that, I'll let you guys know. All right, so just a little information here. I did a couple controls with the devices. So I did a paper, I took measurements on paper, and I also took measurements on a industry standardized color chart. So all of these are standard things. Again, whiteness of paper. People want to know how close these things get to paper, and I did the color checker because I wanted to test everything against what the industry considers white, right? And a standardized spider checker 24 gives you the industry standard for whiteness, and it's used to calibrate colors for whiteness and any other color in the spectrum when you're doing videography and photography, and it's widely used in the industry. All right, just to give you a little bit of scale here, 0 on the whiteness scale is black, and 100 on the whiteness scale is pure white. You can get higher than 100 if you're bleaching paper and whatever you're doing here. So there's possibilities for that, but 100 is considered white. All right, so again, we have paper here at 93.61, which is the highest whiteness rating I have of anything I tested. Next, after paper, we have, and again, this is whiteness. This is just about how close these things come to white. Not how bright they are, but just white. Next, we have the color checker, which is our control. It has a whiteness of 77.38. And since these go from 0 to 100, these could be considered percentages, but we won't talk about those in those terms. But this is a measurement of 77.38 for the whiteness checker. Now, the whiteness checker is not as white as paper. Again, paper can get bleached, all these things, but the whiteness checker is the industry standard for white. And that's only measuring a 77.38, so there we go. Now we're getting into actual eInk devices. And the first eInk device we see here on the chart, going from whitest to not so white, is the Viwoods AI paper at 48.09. So you'll notice that these things aren't even breaking 50 as far as whiteness goes in the eInk displays. But we got 48.9, which is the highest I was able to get out of any of the eInk devices that I have. Which was surprising. The Viwoods AI paper, I would have given it to the eNote. Just visually, I've been saying for months that I think that the eNote is the brightest and whitest display, eInk display that I've tested, and that's not true. It is in some senses, but it only gets beat out by the Viwoods AI paper, which it slightly gets beat out by the Viwoods AI paper. Now, these readings here, Viwoods AI paper is 48.09. These readings are a average of 5 separate measurements. So I measured all of these 5 times. No front light for the devices that have front lights. And I did them after a refresh. So I refreshed the screen, and I did the measurement so that the screen was the freshest it could be, or the whitest it could be. But we'll see in the ghosting tests that's not necessarily true. And I have 2 other videos coming of testing. I got whiteness test, or I got roughness testing, and I also have ghosting testing to do on these devices. So stay tuned for those. Get subscribed if you want to see that information. After the Viwoods AI paper for whiteness, we have the Penstar eNote, which is about right, in my opinion. I assumed it would be high on the list, visually anyway, at 47.33. Next, we have the Go 10.3, the GOAT, at 44.15. So it's number 3 on the list of eInk devices. The GOAT is just going to be high on, I think, every list I have here, just because there's some unique properties of the screen, so we'll get to those. The Boox Go 7, I would have put that higher on this list too. Just visually, it looks wider than a lot of other screens, but it's only at a 43.91. What else we got here? We have the Supernote Manta coming in under the Go 7 what numbers is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? The Manta is number 5 on this list at 43.59. Remarkable 2, right under the Manta at 42.47. We have the Nomad right under the Remarkable 2, actually a little bit ways under the Remarkable 2 at 39.06. After that, we start seeing the color devices, and we all know the color devices are not going to be as white as the non-color devices because of the filter layer that goes over them. The two Kaleido 3 devices that I have on the list, which is the Boox Note Air 4C, is at 27.56. Right under that, we have the Boox Tab Mini C at 26.57. And then the worst on the list for whiteness, I guess this is not judging brightness, it's just judging whiteness. So I guess, yeah, I get, you know what, that would almost make sense. So I can't knock that. So that does make a little bit of sense. We'll see when we get to the brightness that this will be a different story. So for whiteness, though, the Remarkable is at the bottom of the list at 19.45, which, if we think about it, the Remarkable Paper Pro's screen is on a yellowish side, right? And that's been confirmed widely throughout the industry here. It's probably the least white. You know, just even visually, you can see that. So these numbers bear out in the visual observations that I've been able to ascertain. We're using words like ascertain here. Get your thesaurus out. I said thesaurus. Get your dictionary out. Interesting stuff, but I don't think there's any big surprises here other than I thought the eNote would have taken the top spot. But Viwoods, listen, man. There's some trending things here about Viwoods, and I want to say that Viwoods software is getting better. They have a really good screen, apparently, as far as the whiteness goes, and we'll see in other areas. But man, yeah, we'll continue that Viwoods conversation. Going on to the next chart here, we have the brightness test. Now, this test is not whiteness, it's just brightness, how bright the background is. So unlike whiteness, we're just talking about how much light gets reflected off of the actual surface there. All right, so top of the list here, we have our control in the Spider Checker 24, industry standard for checking color. We have the white square on that particular color chart, measuring in at 94.95 for brightness. Next on the chart, we have paper here. Paper is next on the chart with 89.8 on the surface brightness. Now, surface brightness also goes from 0 to 100 here. So, and that doesn't go above 100 for this particular test. At 100, it's reflecting 100% of the light that was shown onto it. At 0, it's reflecting 0% of the light shown onto it. So that's how this test is handled, and that's what we're seeing here. So paper reflects 89.8% of the light, the ambient light around it. It reflects back so you can see. So that's a high reflectivity, a high brightness level for paper. We have the Viwoods out of the eInk devices. It's number 1 in whiteness, and in this test for brightness, it's number 1 at 72.4. And as we can see here, eInk devices are closer to paper and the Spider Checker in the brightness arena than they are in the whiteness. If we look at the whiteness again, we see there's a huge drop off from where the Spider Checker is to the first eInk device, which is the Viwoods AI paper. Huge drop off, 77.38. 48.09, but that's less of a difference in the brightness category we see here. Whereas we got paper at 89.8 and then the first eInk device at 72.4. So less of a divide. So in the brightness level, eInk devices are reaching paper levels with brightness as far as these measurements are concerned. So we got the AI paper leading the pack for eInk devices. We have the eNote from Penstar second in place again on this chart for brightness. So these two devices were leading the pack in whiteness and are leading the pack in brightness. The eNote has a measurement of 70.43. Below those two devices, we have the Go 10.3. So the ordering is still the same as far as eInk devices go so far. We got the Go 10.3 with a brightness of 69.12, so it reflects 69% of the light shown on it back to your eyes. The Supernote Manta is number 4 on this list at 68.85. Again, it's surprising me that the Go 7 is so low on this list. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, number 5 on this list for brightness. It visually looks brighter, but it does not hold up under measurement. So it's at a 68.59. The Remarkable 2 is at a 68.16. So just barely below the Boox Go 7. Next, after Remarkable 2, we have the Supernote Nomad at 68.03. The Remarkable Paper Pro at 63.89. Now, our last chart for whiteness, we saw the Remarkable Paper Pro was last on that list at 19.45. So it wasn't as white as the other color devices. Matter of fact, it was the worst of the other color e-ink devices. But out of the color e-ink devices for brightness, the Remarkable Paper Pro wins that match. So it's brighter than the other color devices on this list from Onyx. So we got the Remarkable Paper Pro at 63.89 for display brightness. And then we have the Boox Note Air 4C at 56.03 for brightness there. So yeah, I mean a bit of a drop there. So I think they went with the Gallery 3 for the Remarkable Paper Pro for a few reasons, but I gotta think that one of those reasons was because of screen brightness, right? So anyway, going on, which I think screen brightness is more important than screen whiteness in my opinion, because the brighter the screen is, the better the contrast. Right below the Remarkable Paper Pro, we have the Boox Note Air 4C at 56.03. And the Boox Tab Mini C at 55.23. So all the devices reflecting at least 50% of the ambient light back towards your eyes to see. So none of these are terrible, especially not as terrible as they are in the whiteness department. So none of these are terrible in the brightness department, but there is a clear winner here. And as we can see, the Viwoods takes the whiteness and the brightness category in these tests. The next 3 charts we're going to look at are going to all be about color. So essentially what happens is I took 2 tests. The first test I took was whiteness. All right, so as we can see here in this box here, we have surface brightness L, and the L aspect of the surface brightness is the brightness, right? But that test consists of 3 parts, the L, the A, and the B components. So the L is brightness, the A is color shift, right? So let's talk about that. So the A is color shift from green to red, and the B is color shift from blue to yellow. These are in the same order as the brightness. So these are not in order of any particular significance here for the color shift. They're still in the order that they were for the brightness test. We can see here from this chart that most e-ink screens for the A component exhibit a green color shift. The outliers here would be, for e-ink devices, would be, well, actually only one outlier, well, 2 outliers. We got the Go 10.3, which has a positive value for the A component, and that leads it to having a reddish color shift. So it's going to be on the warmer side of the color spectrum for the background screen display. The Boox Tab Mini C, we have a extremely green color shift here. It has the biggest color shift of any green color shift of any of the e-ink devices I tested. They all display green color shift to some degree, but the Boox Tab Mini C displays so big of a green shift that you can actually see the green shift play out on the Tab Mini C. So that is the A color shift component from the brightness test that I did. So right now we've looked at the L component of the brightness test, which is just the brightness. We've looked at the A component of the brightness test, which is the color shift from green to red. This last component of the LAB brightness test is going to be the B component, and it's a color shift from blue to yellow. All right, so as we can see here, the spider checker has a yellow color shift for the B component. Paper has the biggest blue color shift here. And as we get down into the eInk devices, we see that most eInk devices display some sort of blue color shift in the B component for the LAB brightness test. But we do have two devices that are a little bit different than the normal here, and which is again the Boox Go 10.3. Instead of having that typical eInk blue color shift, it has a color shift towards yellow. So the Go 10.3 is turning out to be, or the display is turning out to be a much warmer display than any of the other eInk devices that I have on hand and tested here, which is you know, a bit telling. Maybe that's why I like the way the eInk looks on that device, because I really do like the way the eInk looks on the GOAT. It looks really good. And if you don't know what the GOAT is, I refer to the Go 10.3 as the GOAT, because by all intents and purposes, it is the GOAT. Next, we have the Nomad, Supernote Nomad here, with a very minimal blue shift, hardly at all any, right? Which is going to leave it just having that, let's look up here for the Nomad, it has a very minimal green shift too. The most minimal out of all the eInk devices other than the Go 10.3, which doesn't have a green shift at all. It has a red shift. That's very telling though. And the only other device we have here that has a yellow shift is going to be the Remarkable Paper Pro, a huge yellow shift too. It doubles, almost triples the yellow shift of the Boox Go 10.3. And it's such a huge yellow shift that you can actually see that yellow display out, or you know, manifest itself. What do we talk about when we talk about genes? Express itself as a yellow hue on the screen. So those are the two differences in the B color shift for eInk devices. That it's typically a blue color shift for the B component of the brightness test, but the Go 10.3 and the Remarkable Paper Pro are kind of deviants in that way. They display that yellow color shift. Very interesting. All right, the last chart we have here to look at is the combination of the A and B components, the two color components of the brightness test. This is a combination of those two color shift components put together. So we can see here the decolor checker here. And what's cool about this is that we can get kind of a color profile for these different things. And the only color profile that I'm concerned about is the color profile for paper. We can see here that paper has a color profile where it has a color shift towards green and a large color shift towards blue. So that's the color profile for paper, at least the Mead color paper. And I just tested a regular standard sheet of Mead color, Mead college ruled writing paper that you can get from most anywhere you can buy paper. But I thought that was an interesting signature there for the color shift of paper. But looking at the paper profile here, there aren't any devices that follow that pattern. Typically, we have a large A value for eInk devices and a smaller B value, as we can see here. That's the trend. These measurements bear out what we see and observe with our eyes here. With some surprises that I do appreciate, and that being the Go 10.3 being different than every other display in that it has two positive values for the color shift. All right, and I think that is going to be it. I have also some tables down here. If you want to look at the raw data, the tables are on the website too. Definitely go check out the article if you want to see more of this in detail. I talk about this in way more detail in the article than I did here mentioning this stuff in the video, but I did want to make a video and bringing it to light that out of the devices that I tested, the Viwoods AI paper is the whitest and the Viwoods AI paper is the whitest. If you want the most neutral, the device without the least amount of color shift, the most neutral background, that's going to be the Supernote Nomad. And as far as the worst devices for whiteness, the worst is going to be the Remarkable Paper Pro. As far as the brightness goes, that's going to be the Tab Mini C from Onyx and their Boox line of products. All right, everyone, that's going to be it for me. I hope you guys got something from this. I'll link the article in the description like I mentioned at the top of the video. Go check out the website, rantsaboutTech.com. I have a few articles up there for you to take a look at. Get down in the comments, let me know what you think, give me some feedback. I have some projects for you to take a look at. There's a shop for shirts and other stuff. Go check it out. All right, everyone. That's going to be it for this video. Go ahead and like if you like, subscribe if you want to see more. And until next time, everybody, take care.